All right. Good morning, interwebs. This is Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching, and welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. With me, as always, is our marketing director and one of our other coaches, Jen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Jen Weybauer, you are having internet connectivity issues. Hopefully that'll iron out some. We'll let Devin do all the talking. And our guest this week is Devin Schlaufmen. Good morning, Devin.
Good morning.
And here's a really absolutely worthless trivial fact, Jen. This is the 33rd episode of our third season.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll probably end up skipping the 66th episode. Oh, we'd never have one. We only do it once a week of our sixth season. So good news there. All right, so Devin, we know that this isn't your normal forte, that live video podcasting. You gave us some insight as to what you did to prepare this morning, but as casual conversations go, we certainly want to have that one as well. And Jen and I obviously do some due diligence. We, dig a little bit. In fact, we have a bit of a vetting process to even ask somebody to be on the show. So we know that you're already doing really good work in your space, in the real estate space. Obviously, a lot of that these days includes good social media work, good video work, those kinds of things. So we really were pretty stoked to have you on the show. But this is really about you. Why don't you give us a little background on you, what you do, how you started, where you're from, why you would choose this lunatic industry as your career, and give us some insight as to what made Devin Devin.
Well, thanks for asking. I am actually a Colorado Springs native. I was literally born downtown Colorado Springs. There's not a lot of us. And growing up here, my parents had a commercial drywall business, and they bought and sold properties. So I think it was a natural transition to real estate. I think growing up in it and living that insanity your entire childhood, you almost have nowhere else to go. Nothing else quite feels thrilling enough to fulfill you every day. And I'm fortunate to get to do real estate every day, and I love it.
Yeah, that is fortunate, no question. So your folks did real estate in Colorado Springs. You were born and raised into it, as it were. And how long have you been doing it?
I've been licensed almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in October.
All right, that's actually a pretty short term considering your level of production. And again, that's part of the vetting process that we put everybody through. Do they actually do real estate, or do they say they do real estate? Because the majority fall into that latter category, of course. So that's a pretty good run in a pretty short time. What did that look like when you started doing it? I mean, where were clients coming from? Where was the support coming from? Were you just kind of thrown to the wolves with the knowledge that you had as you grew up, as you were, raised in a real estate family? Or were there some, key bits and pieces that were already in place that maybe some of our viewers and listeners would benefit from?
Oh, gosh. So when I started into real estate, I was actually serving tables 4 days a week. And I had done that for 10 years. And I had built actually a huge group of people who came to see me where I worked. Just patrons that came and they liked to sit in my section. And I kind of capitalized on that to the best of my ability. And working hard has always been my number one priority. So when I was making the transition, it was lots of conversations. Hey, I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to be selling real estate. I'm a realtor. This is what I'm going to do with my future. And it was a super natural transition because I had already worked in an industry where building relationships in a very short amount of time was what I did every day, day in and day out. I'm really fortunate in real estate that I get a month to build a relationship with a client. And when I was serving tables, I had 30 minutes.
Right.
So it was a super natural transition for me to go from one to the other. I'm also really fortunate because I love people. And I've always been really good at creating relationships with people and maintaining them and growing them and nurturing them. And so even from serving tables, I've sold like 7 houses to people who came to see me when I served tables. So they were my Facebook friends.
Very cool.
They were part of my life. And that has continued on in my business. So I've been just very fortunate to have that as a personal ability.
Well, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of symbiosis in there, and I actually recommend to a lot of our coaching clients, whether they're loan originators or real estate professionals, and even in the insurance, financial planning worlds, etc., that servers make great customer service oriented salespeople. And it's difficult over the last 6 months, obviously, and we'll get into what the world looks like today a little bit when it comes to your business. But when we were all dining out all the time, I certainly always recommend to all of you, and I know we're not dining out as much as we were, and there's a new landscape when it comes to dining out, so I get it, but keep your eyes open. If you're looking for an LOA, if you're looking for a TC, if you're looking for a personal assistant, whatever the case may be, somebody that you may eventually groom into loan origination, real estate sales, etc., the really top-notch people working in restaurants have the skills that you're looking for. They really do. They are detail-oriented. They are customer service-oriented. They know how to sell. That's a big deal in restaurants. So, yeah, this is, I don't want to, dwell on this too much, but the restaurant industry produces tons of great potential future loan originators, financial planners, real estate agents, insurance agents. So, yeah, for those of you that are in one of those lines of work, looking for people that could be assisting you, that you could groom to do what you do, to do what Devin does, to do what I do, then yeah, keep your eyes and ears open. Really pay attention to the people that are serving you in the restaurant environment, because they have those skills in spades, if they're really good at that job.
Yes.
No question. All right, so that obviously makes for a very natural transition, and we get that because we see it all the time, or at least we used to see it all the time. Obviously, the last 6 months have been unique. We're not going out to restaurants as often. It's very difficult to be that fantastic relationship-forming, customer service-oriented server in a restaurant today because of the rules and regulations surrounding how restaurants operate during the pandemic. But let's talk more about what Devin's life looks like during the pandemic. I was actually talking to somebody this morning about how bizarre the real estate world was when the pandemic really first set into the United States. And here in Colorado in particular, the governor said you're not an essential business. Then he said you are an essential business. Then he said all the things that are ancillary to your business are not essential: appraisals, inspections, showings, open houses, so on and so forth. So you guys have been on this roller coaster ride of being able to get business done. It has settled a little in the last 3 or 4 months versus those first couple, but tell us what kinds of things are different in your world than they were, a year ago.
So I spent the weekend really thinking about that, trying to figure out how my business has changed in the last 6 months. And I want to say not a lot. And I know that's going to sound insane, but over the last 5 years, I've really built a business based off of my people. How do I maintain those relationships? How do I continue to market to them? How do I continue to wish them happy birthday and happy anniversary and tell them congrats on their dog? And not because I have to, but because I thoroughly enjoy it. And that didn't change during COVID. So my business didn't drastically change during COVID. Now, I had a couple buyers who dipped out of the process because they wanted a true, authentic buying experience. They were not down with throwing out offers on properties they couldn't step foot in. That didn't really fly for them. But we waited, and that was okay. It wasn't a problem that we waited. we put it on a little bit of a delay, and a month or 2 months later, we started that process back up again. But I have always had my business formulated that way, with relationship based. And that just was amplified during COVID. It gave me a little bit extra time walking on my treadmill in my basement to text people and to call people and to message them on Facebook. But to me, it was always like that. It didn't change February 19th or March 1st. It just got a little bit more amplified.
Okay. And yeah, for those of you listening or listening in syndication on the podcast or watching live now, what Devin is referring to is that there actually was a period through this roller coaster that I was explaining a minute ago where the only way you could actually go see a property in Colorado was if you had already made an offer on it. It was a very strange week or 10 days or whatever it was. And some people were doing it, most were not. And Devin, I'll bet that actually benefited those clients that you're mentioning, because, boy, the interest rates have gone way down. They probably qualify for more house than they could have in March.
Yeah, it definitely benefited them to wait just a little bit longer, because there were still a lot of intimidating factors for buyers to buy in April and in May. They weren't quite ready. So the buyer pool went down, gave my people an opportunity to get into a home without 15 offers on it. We only had 2 offers on it, and it was a lot better deal for them. So I was okay with them waiting, because it's always about what is best for my clients, how, what their comfort level is, where they're happiest. It's always about them. So for me, I took a couple months, not off per se, but off from showing houses, and I just allowed people to feel the way that they felt. And when they were ready, we hit the ground running. And it worked out great for them. Yeah,
from a financial perspective, no doubt. I started refinancing and buying some properties over the last 6 months in April, and I wish I'd waited just a little longer. That first refinance would have resulted in even lower rates than we were able to capture in April if we had waited into May, June, July, August. Tomorrow's September, for those of you that understand. There is a tear in the time-space continuum as the days and weeks and months drag on, and yet somehow tomorrow is September. Go figure. All right, so having a relationship-based business, which is what we certainly promote and preach, are the mortgage company that Jen and I also work for, in unison with our coaching company, is strictly repeat and referral. We obviously focus very heavy on, the birthdays and anniversaries and congratulations on your dog or your ding-a-ling cat who pulls his own staples out or whatever the case may be. That's a nod to Jen's new stray that she recently adopted. I can't even remember. Hagrid? Is it Hagrid?
Hagrid.
Hagrid, the cat that won't leave his staples in after he likely got into a scuffle with a wild animal. But nice of Jen to adopt and nurse back to health and pay vet bills for. And yeah, I see him back there. All right. So along those lines, obviously a lot of this stuff we're doing in a digital manner anyway. Good social media work, good graphics, video, telephone, texting, so on and so forth. So for those of you that aren't in a position and hadn't built up your position over the previous 4 years where Devin has, and now that just kind of worked like clockwork for her through the pandemic because she just keeps doing what she was doing. So for those of you that were doing it differently in March, April, May, June, hopefully you've made some significant adjustments to your tech, to your systems, those kinds of things by now. If not, well, it's never too late to put these kinds of things in place. Make sure that you are doing the kinds of things that help further the relationships that you already have. These are the people that are going to buy and sell houses. Here's the bottom line, guys. Everybody in America either owns real estate or wants to. That's pretty much a given. Okay? So pretty much every person you encounter online, in the restaurant where you're waiting tables, and anywhere in between is a potential client. If you're in real estate, if you're in mortgages, if you're in insurance, if you're in financial planning, for the most part, everybody is either a potential client or knows someone who is. So gathering up this data, building these relationships, having people in your circle. He who has the most friends wins. That's really the bottom line. I know we used to say he who has the most toys wins, but it's not necessarily about the toys anymore. It's about your circle, your people, who's going to work with you and who's going to refer people to you that will work with you. Okay? So if you haven't done it already, please get started on putting these kinds of tech and systems and social media activity and texting and so on and so forth into place. You're all spending time on the treadmill. Do what Devin does. Text people. Reach out. How are you doing? I wouldn't want to talk on the phone while I'm on the treadmill because I'm fat and out of shape and I'm winded and it would sound like I'm on a treadmill. But the texting one is a good one. All right, so Devin, what changes have you made during the last 6 months? What kinds of things have you implemented, adjusted, morphed into being even more conducive to doing business during a pandemic?
One, I have a full-time assistant, so that was new for me. There's a training and a learning curve for both her and I. She's never been an assistant, but she comes from a restaurant, so she has that same detailed background that I do, same as customer service. But training somebody is different. So that has been something that's new for me. But it has also taken a lot of time, that it's freed up a lot of time for me and given me the opportunity to be better at what I truly like doing, which is building relationships, finding people great homes, selling people's homes in the best way possible, and giving everybody the customer service and the kindness and the appreciation that I like to give people. So that is the first thing that I've done. Second thing is I've realized where I can trim from my marketing and where I really needed to amplify it. So the things that I really realized and looked at and considered what was important and what wasn't. And I've made adjustments along the way. And I think I'll continue to do that for a while just to make sure what I'm doing is really effective. And I've really just continued to try to build those relationships. I can't stress that enough during the pandemic. So many people were lonely. I was lonely. I'm used to seeing people all day, every day. I'm used to sitting in trainings and meetings and drinking coffee with my friends or whatever it may be. And it was very, very lonely. So how do we make people feel loved and appreciated when you can't necessarily see them in person? And those are just the things that I've worked on in addition to what I've already done for the last 5 years.
All right, this is great stuff. And just as a full disclaimer, you guys, Devin is not one of our coaching clients. We've never had this conversation before. The symbiosis is there. She believes what we believe and vice versa because it just makes sense. When we get into the team structure modules of our coaching program, the first thing we do is basically have a conversation with a coaching client who's always going to tell us, I can't afford an assistant. And really the answer to that is you can't not afford an assistant. And we throw this formula out there that everybody will love. If you hired somebody part-time, 20 hours a week at $20 an hour, $400 a week, let's call it $1,600 a month, it would free up 80 hours of your time that month. 80. Could you find one more deal in 80 hours? Does that one deal pay you more than $1,600? Yes, and yes. Well, those are rhetorical, yes. But you can't not afford an assistant. So Devin is doing that. She's taking that time that she freed up and doing the things that are $200 an hour work, not $20 an hour work, furthering those relationships, furthering her sales, furthering her real estate career. And hopefully at some point, Devin's assistant may or may not be full-time, but hopefully will be at some point, can then take on the role of training the next assistant, and Devin and her current assistant will put their heads together and figure out who that person's going to be, and then what tasks they're going to complete. And her assistant will free some room up off of her plate to take on more tasks, and Devin will be able to give her more tasks, and then Devin will have more time to go do the things that Devin as a real estate agent, as a realtor should be doing, generating leads, finding buyers and sellers, building relationships. So yeah, again, Devin and I have never had this conversation. She hasn't been through any of our coaching, certainly not the team structure modules, and it makes sense because it just makes sense, guys. This is something that you've got to do in order to propel yourself. If you want to be onesie twosie, you want to do a deal a month, by all means, do it all yourself. You want to do a couple dozen deals a year, you want to get to where you're doing 50 deals a year, you want to own a company that's doing hundreds of deals a year, these are the steps you got to take. And Devin is on that path, not because she asked me for input about it, because it's just the logical way to do it. So, yeah, thank you, Devin. Hopefully hearing it from another source will kind of drill that into our audience and our clients that this is the way to do it. This is what really works.
Well, and it is easier. I mean, in my opinion, working by repeat, referral, friends, family, the person who checks you out at King Supers, that business is enjoyable. You're not chasing your tail every day. Now, don't get me wrong. I've got online leads. I've closed online leads. I've had people come through my Google account. I've had people text me that they read my reviews and they want to use me. All of that is great. And all of that is a perk to what I'm doing every day.
Well, and it's all a necessary piece of the puzzle. You got to have good reviews online. You got to make sure that your contact information is out there. I can't believe how many real estate agents I come across where I cannot find their email address to save my life. I cannot find their cell phone number to save my life. If I'm looking for somebody and I want to text, I'm a texter, then not being able to find your cell phone number to text you is, well, I'm moving on. I'm going to go find the next agent and see if I can't form a relationship with them. So yes, while these little building blocks, these, the little Legos are, insignificant compared to things like good, solid relationship building, if you don't have all the pieces in place, you don't end up with the final structure. You can't build the entire, whatever it is people are building with Legos these days. The last time I really did it was the Millennium Falcon with my son 10 years ago. So, yeah, so I get it. But these are all really important pieces. So, guys, really key in on what Devin is saying here. She's got her contact information out on the web. She's got lots of positive reviews out on the web. And we do talk about review campaigns when we get to the campaign modules and how to ask for them and how to get more of them and so on and so forth. Having your contact information out there. If I go to your Facebook page and I can't find your cell phone number, you're already failing. Go back to, Marketing 101 because that's definitely a major no-brainer there. So, yeah, all of these pieces are important, guys. So really listen. And again, Devin and I have never had this conversation. She is not feeding me data to tell you and vice versa. These are the things you do to be successful because they just make sense. All right. What does the future hold, Devin? What additional changes do you want to put in? What things are you going to implement that, just would come organically over time or that you're accelerating because of the pandemic? What's 2021 going to bring to you?
Oh, gosh. Hopefully a lot. I am currently in a position where I'm trying to build a team. I've got 4 or 5 agents that I'm helping grow as well. And hopefully that means, easier and more exciting business for me in the future as well. I'm looking forward to 2021. I think that my personal perspective on this, I think we're going to see a lot of agents get out of the business this year because it's hard. It is different. That people have had to put in a lot more work than what they maybe saw even 7 months ago compared to today. And I think we are going to see some realtors decide that this maybe isn't for them. And that's okay. It's unfortunate because it's such a wonderful and fulfilling career if you can make it work. But I can tell you, I have received 4 clients this year that have left other realtors. 4 is still 4 clients, people that I had never met, didn't know. They were either referred to me, found me on Google, called me from a sign call, and they all had other realtors and they came and joined me and I was able to find them a home. And and sell their home actually in very quick time. So I think 2021 is going to look different for a lot of people. The competition may be a little bit, those left in the business, I think, are going to be fierce competitors. They're going to be people that I have to find a way to be bigger and better and grander and more knowledgeable than, because they are going to give me a run for my money. But I also just think that those relationships are going to continue to bloom because so many people lacked them in 2020. And people are desiring that. They're still a little scared right now with COVID still being out there. But I think once 2021 rolls around and they're desiring those relationships and really quality people who care about their best interest, that's going to mean something to a lot of people. And I'm looking forward to it.
I think that's good. And I think that there's some subtext there that's really, really important for our audience to understand. I want you guys to note that Devin compliments the competition that does this kind of work, this volume of work, this repeat and referral work. But she doesn't fear it. And what's evidenced in that, how that's evidenced, I should say, in my mind, is that Devin is mentoring other agents. Those two things combined really make me believe that Devin has an abundance mindset. She believes that if you're good at what you do, there's plenty of business for everybody out there. In fact, so much to the point that she's willing to teach other people how she does business, because there's enough business out there for everybody that's good at it. And this is, old Zig Ziglar kind of stuff. You give because you're going to get. You have an abundance mindset. You teach people. You mentor people. You help people, because that shit comes back to you tenfold. It does. It really, really does. So I know, Devin, you weren't saying it specifically in those words, but I really want our audience to key in on part of the reason that you're as successful as you are in as short a time frame as it's been for you to have been licensed in real estate is because you have an abundance mindset. You're not afraid of the competition. You're not afraid to teach other people what you know. You're not holding all your tips and tricks close to the chest so that nobody can ever find out what Devin knows. And of course, the smart people already know what Devin knows. Here, Devin and I are both telling you guys the exact same thing in different language of what you need to be doing in order to build a strict repeat and referral business that will provide you comfort and pleasure and job satisfaction and help other people and have this rewarding career. And Devins has only been 5 years, and it's already a rewarding career for her. She said it herself when describing how she wants to help other people. So yeah, another major piece of this puzzle that we're building is that abundance mindset. Help other people, mentor other people, coach other people, teach other people, because not only are you confident in the fact that there's enough business to go around, but you're actually bringing up the level of your entire industry by doing it.
Well, and that's always the hope. I wish that there were more quality agents out there. When I mean quality, people who are doing business, who are good at what they do, who don't want to share any of that information. I wish they would change that mindset to, how do we make the new ones better? Because it's only going to make our career better. It's only going to make our industry better if we make other people better. And I get excited about helping people. There's not a single person in my office who hasn't asked me a question that I gave an honest answer to. Not a half-assed answer, not what I wanted to share with them, but a true honest answer of, what they really should be doing or what that really looks like in real practical application. And I wish there were more agents like that, because it would only make us as an industry better.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the issues you're describing are probably bigger than even a seasoned agent being able to mentor a new agent. It goes further back. We got to change the mindset of what being a successful real estate agent really is. That it is hard work, that it is full time, that it's not the tons of cash and flexible schedule that a lot of people getting into the business think it is. Then we got to address the real estate schools and make sure they're really being straightforward with people about the fact that, we're going to teach you all this real estate stuff, contracts and inspections and negotiations, but we're not going to teach you the sales side, and there's the sales side. If you're not doing good lead gen work, you don't have to worry about contracts and inspections and closings because there's no such thing. None of that exists without the buyers and sellers. I agree with you. I do. But I think the issue is bigger than what you'd be able to accomplish by having seasoned agents and new agents and bringing them up as an industry. I think the problems start earlier than that. But I'm sure that wasn't true for you when you first got into real estate. You were probably working 10 hours a week and making $1 million a year, and you didn't actually have to work hard at it. So.
I always like to tell people, this industry is full time, and that's if you're lucky. If you're working 40 hours a week, you're lucky. Most of us are working 60, 70 hours a week. I gave birth to my son at 2:53 in the morning, and I was making phone calls at 9 a.m. Literally.
Okay, that's awful. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be an extreme example, I assure you. But yes.
They counted on me. I went to closing when I had a 3-day-old baby, because they hired me to do a job. It was very serious to me, and I was going to show up regardless of the situation that I was dealing with.
Inconvenience of childbirth. I got it.
little minor detail of having a baby.
I'll be out from 12 to 1 delivering, so please don't book the closing then.
But I had to. They counted on me, and I needed to be there for them. And so I did. I made phone calls at 9 a.m., 6 hours after giving birth. But that's the reality of this industry, is that it is every day.
It is.
And
eyes open to eyes closed.
Yeah, it's every day, all day long. And even if it's minor, a text message, or a little phone call, like if you get a day off, I feel like you might be doing something wrong, because you're not producing enough leads and business and relationships if you're getting a day off. And I haven't experienced that in a while.
You will get to a point where instead of 4 agents, it's 10, and instead of 1 assistant, it's 3, and you will. Your day off is coming, I promise.
We'll see.
Yeah, you are on the right path for it. I assure you. Okay, Devin, this has been fantastic, and I see Jen telling me that we're running over, as we usually do. But I think that there are going to be people who would connect with you on a consumer level in Colorado Springs. I think there are agents that would connect with you on a learning and mentoring and team building type of level. Give us the information on how everybody can reach you.
Oh, gosh. Well, first, if you just Google me, you should be able to get all of my contact information. I've worked real hard on my Google page. But my Instagram handle is realtor.devin, phone number 719-650-3295. I have a Facebook, I have a business Facebook. You name it, and I've got it. So you should have no issues finding me and connecting with me.
All right. For those of you watching, you're obviously able to see how to spell Devin's name, and we had this discussion before we actually went live. For those of you listening to the podcast, it's Devin, Devin, Schlaufmen, Schlaufman. And if you need that, again, you'll have to rewind, because that's how podcasts work. All right. So, Devin, thank you so much for being with us. This has been a great episode for us. I expect that you're not as nervous about it as you were an hour ago.
I'm not. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no. It's been our pleasure. Jen, anything you want to add before we... Are you connected with us, Jen? How's your internet?
It's still terrible, I tell you, Xfinity. But no, Devin, this has been great. And a lot of your mindset lines right up with just the tips coaching. And like Adam said, we hadn't ever had this with you before, but it's really nice coming from a different voice, that relationship focused business. So thank you. And thank you for taking the show.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, you guys.
You bet. All right, just a few self-serving business items before we sign off. Jen, do we still have tickets available for the Mile High Mastermind?
I think one or two
Okay.
are left at this point.
And we got about 2.5 weeks before that event. But for those of you watching or listening, the 4th annual Mile High Mastermind, a 2-day event with some amazing speakers this year, as they are every year, even a couple that are repeat, mostly focused around the lead generation platform, but we're going to focus some on Instagram, on